Hi everyone! In continuing our triangles unit, we're going to be using the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. Now what that's used for is to classify the triangles based on its angles. Sometimes you're just going to be given a problem that gives you the side lengths, and you can use the information given here in order to determine whether the triangle is right, obtuse, or acute. Now in doing your problems, just make note that you're always going to use the longest side as your value for C, right? And then just as a reminder, when you classify a triangle by its angles, it can be equiangular, acute, right, or obtuse. And if you classify it by its sides, it can be equilateral, isosceles, or scalene. So let's try a problem. Right, the directions say use the converse of Pythagorean theorem to classify the triangle by its angles and its sides. Right, so we're given a triangle here with all different side lengths, which automatically means that classifying it by its sides, it's going to be scalene. So I'm just going to write that here. Now, in order to classify it by its angles, we need to use the converse. Right, and we said that C is always going to be our longest side. So let's use 10 as our C, and we're just going to plug it in. Right, 10 squared, C squared, equals 8 squared plus 6 squared. It doesn't matter which side you use as A and B, as long as C is the longest. Right, so then you get 100 equals 64 plus 36. And when you add 64 plus 36, you actually get 100. So looking back at the converse, since 100 equals 100, right, if C squared equals A squared plus B squared, the triangle is right. So we're going to say that this is a right scalene triangle. All right, let's try another one. Here you're given a triangle with all different side lengths. However, one of them is a radical. But because they have all different side lengths, I'm just going to first make note so we don't forget that this is going to be a scalene triangle. But we need to use the converse in order to determine whether it's right, obtuse, or acute. Right? Now we say when we plug in our values, C is always going to be the largest. So I would probably put 4 radical 10 in your calculator and get a decimal for that. Not that we're going to use, but just to confirm, it's about 12.6. Just to confirm that this side actually is the longest, because the diagrams aren't always drawn to scale. Okay, so we're going to use 16 as our C. That's all I was doing. So when I set up my equation for the converse, I'm going to write 16 squared first, because 16 is the longest. Then equals 6 squared plus 4 root 10 squared. Right, that looks a little messy, but it's not actually that bad. 16 squared is 256 equals 36 plus 160. Now, if you're not sure about squaring the radical, remember that anything squared is that times itself. So 4 root 10 squared is 4 root 10 times 4 root 10, which is 16 times, and then root 10 times root 10 is just 10. 16 times 10, which is 160. Or you can just put it in parentheses in your calculator and square it, and you'll get the same thing. All right, so going back to the converse, when we simplify that, we have 256 equals 196. It does not equal 196. It is greater than 196, right? And if you get C squared is greater than A squared plus B squared, then we know the triangle is obtuse. So our answer for this is that this is an obtuse scalene triangle. All right, let's do one more. In this one, it doesn't give you the diagram, but it does give you the side lengths. Now again, you have a radical here. So we just want to make sure that we're using the largest side as our c value. So if you put the square root of 115 in your calculator, you get 10 point something, which means that 14 is going to be the largest. So that's how we know. Let's use 14 as our largest and set it up. So 14 is our c, so 14 squared equals 11 squared plus the square root of 115 squared. Okay, and when you simplify that, we have 196 equals 121 plus 115. Remember that taking the square root of something and squaring it are opposite operations. So the square root of 115 squared is just 115. All right, and then when we add that up, we get 196 equals 236. It does not equal 236. It is less than 236. Right? So we know that the triangle is acute. Right? That's classifying it by angles. Now classify it by sides. All these side lengths are different, so therefore it's an acute scalene triangle. And we're done. Great job.